The disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan is a case that has gripped the nation, but as we dig deeper into the timeline of May 2025, a troubling picture begins to emerge, one centered squarely on their mother, Malehya Brooks-Murray. While the public face of the investigation was one of frantic search for two missing children, behind the scenes, investigators were discovering a series of actions and inconsistencies that point to a much darker reality. Today, we are exposing the secrets investigators uncovered, starting with the most damning digital evidence found on Brooks-Murray's personal device. Court documents unsealed in October 2025 revealed a detail that changed the entire trajectory of the investigation: the use of a Text Plus application. For those unfamiliar, this app allows a user to send messages and make calls using a secondary, ghost number, essentially creating a secret communication channel untraceable to a standard service provider. But it isn't just the existence of the app that raised red flags. It was what Brooks-Murray did with it. Immediately after Lilly and Jack vanished, as the police launched a massive search, Brooks-Murray deleted the application from her phone. Think about the gravity of that choice. Your two young children are missing. Hundreds of volunteers are scouring the woods. Every single digital footprint, every conversation, and every contact could be the key to finding them. Yet, in those critical hours, Brooks-Murray chose to erase a secret communication tool. Why would a mother prioritize digital privacy over her children's lives? What was so incriminating in those messages that she didn't want the RCMP to see? Forensic experts only discovered the deletion through specialized software, meaning she never volunteered this information. She tried to make it disappear, and when confronted, she offered no public justification for destroying potential evidence in an active missing persons case. This is not the behavior of a frantic parent. It is the behavior of someone protecting themselves. Beyond the digital secrets, we have to look at the alibi provided for the night of May 1st. Brooks-Murray claimed she put 6-year-old Lilly and 4-year-old Jack to bed at 9 p.m., followed by baby Meadow, and then went to sleep herself because she was tired from the day. She insisted she slept through the entire night, hearing nothing. Meanwhile, her partner, Daniel Martel, allegedly stayed up with the intention of cleaning the house to help her out. However, when morning came, the house was exactly as it had been left. No cleaning had been done. No chores were completed. This creates a massive, suspicious window of time. If Martel wasn't cleaning, what was he doing while the rest of the house slept? And why did Brooks-Murray not find it odd that his stated reason for being awake resulted in no actual work? This narrative conveniently places her in a deep sleep, absolving her of witnessing anything that happened in the home. But as we will see, the neighbors in Lansdowne Station tell a very different story about what was actually happening on that property, while the world was supposedly quiet. While Brooks-Murray claimed to be in a deep, undisturbed sleep, the quiet hamlet of Lansdowne Station was anything but silent. Two independent witnesses, who had not coordinated their stories, provided testimony that directly shatters the family's quiet night at home narrative. Brad Wong, who lives on a hill overlooking the Sullivan property, reported seeing vehicle lights flickering through the trees and hearing a car leave and return 3 or 4 times after midnight. Another neighbor, Justin Smith, reported hearing a vehicle on Highway 289 at 1:30 a.m. Smith noted something chillingly specific. The vehicle stopped by the railroad tracks, went completely silent for exactly 2 minutes, and then drove away toward Lansdowne Road. Wong later told Smith he was certain the vehicle belonged to Daniel Martel. If the family was sleeping, why was the vehicle coming and going 5 or 6 times? More importantly, why did it stop in total silence at the railroad tracks? That location, the railroad tracks, is not just a random spot. It is the exact location where searchers found a piece of Lilly's pink blanket the following afternoon. This leads us to the most clear-cut evidence of staging in this entire case. Lilly's blanket wasn't just lost. It was torn into pieces. One piece was found a kilometer away at the tracks, while another piece was found hidden in the household trash at the Sullivan home. This is not what happens when children wander off. A child walking into the woods does not tear their blanket and leave half in the kitchen trash and the other half a kilometer away near a road. This was a deliberate attempt to create a bread box trail to mislead investigators into thinking the children walked toward the tracks on their own. But the person who staged this made a fatal error. They forgot that placing a piece of the blanket in the trash identifies the culprit as someone with access to the inside of the house. Brooks-Murray identified that blanket as Lily's. As a mother who did their laundry and dressed them every day, she knew exactly what belonged to each child. She had the most intimate knowledge of their belongings. Yet, she offered no explanation for how a blanket could be in two places at once. She didn't suggest Lily had torn it earlier or that it was discarded for being old. She simply remained silent. The suspicion only deepened on the morning of May 2nd. Brooks-Murray claimed she woke up at 9 a.m. and noticed the children were gone. She says she and Martel searched the property for 20 minutes before calling 911 at 10:01 a.m. That 20-minute delay is an eternity in a missing child case. Every parent knows that if you can't find your child for even 60 seconds, panic sets in. You call for help immediately. You don't wait 20 minutes unless you are using that time to get your story straight, move evidence, or ensure the scene looks exactly the way you want the police to see it. Even more confusing is the testimony of Janie McKenzie, who lived in the camper on the property. She claimed she actually heard Lilly and Jack's voices that morning. If she heard them, they were alive after the midnight car trips ended. But if they were there and the house was quiet, how did they disappear so thoroughly that not even bloodhounds could find a single scent trail leading away from the house? The pieces don't fit because the story being told isn't the truth. To understand why the focus on Malehya Brooks-Murray has intensified, we have to look at the sheer scale of the search effort that followed her 10:01 a.m. 911 call. When the RCMP arrived at the remote property in Lansdowne Station at 10:27 a.m., they launched what will become one of the most intensive missing persons investigations in the history of Nova Scotia. The terrain in Pictou County is unforgiving: dense forests, abandoned mine shafts, and a lack of cell service that makes every minute a battle against time. Hundreds of personnel were mobilized, working in shifts around the clock, desperate to find 6-year-old Lily and 4-year-old Jack before the elements took their toll. At the peak of the search, over 160 trained volunteers joined forces with ground search and rescue crews. This wasn't just a group of people walking to the woods. It was a high-tech operation. Police dog services deployed both tracking dogs to follow scent trails and cadaver dogs trained to detect human remains. In the air, helicopters flew grid patterns while drones equipped with thermal imaging technology scanned the canopy for any heat signatures. They covered 5.5 square kilometers of dense wilderness in rainy, foggy conditions that hampered visibility and made the terrain dangerous for everyone involved. Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston even issued a public statement, reflecting the province's collective prayer for a safe return. But as the days turned into a week, a chilling reality began to set in. On May 7th, just 5 days after children vanished, the RCMP made the heartbreaking decision to scale back the search. Staff Sergeant Curtis McKinnon explained the grim logic. Given the cold weather, the lack of survival skills in children so young, and the treacherous terrain, the window for survival had closed. But there was a more disturbing reason for the shift in the investigation. Despite thousands of hours of searching, the woods remained silent. In a typical case of a child wandering off, they leave a trail. There are footprints in the mud, pieces of clothing snagged on branches, or a scent trail that a trained dog can lock onto within minutes. In this case, there was nothing. No footprints, no biological evidence, and no trail, except for the torn blanket pieces that we already know were found in two separate, contradictory locations. The complete absence of any physical evidence in the forest strongly suggests that Lilly and Jack never actually entered those woods on foot. If they had, the dog would have found them. If they had, the thermal cameras would have seen them. The lack of a trail points away from the wilderness and back toward the property, suggesting the children either never left the home alive or were transported away by vehicle. While the ground search was stalling, investigators were busy behind the scenes, collecting over 8,000 individual videos. They pulled footage from every possible source: business surveillance, trail cameras used by hunters, doorbell rings, and dash cams from vehicles traveling to the area between May 1st and May 2nd. They watched this footage frame by frame, looking for the vehicle activity reported by the neighbors. And here, they hit another massive discrepancy. While the neighbors were certain they heard a vehicle coming and going multiple times in the middle of the night, the cameras showed nothing. This contradiction raises a haunting question. Did someone know exactly where the cameras were? Did they use back roads and forest paths specifically to avoid being seen? The mystery of the silent woods and the invisible car only deepened suspicion that this was not a simple case of two children getting lost. As the physical search transitioned into a criminal investigation, the RCMP turned to forensic tools to separate truth from fiction. By October 2025, over 800 individual investigative tasks had been completed by 11 different RCMP units, including the Major Crime Unit and the Truth Verification Section. One of the most critical steps was the administration of polygraph examinations to everyone close to the children. Daniel Martell, the stepfather, was tested and found truthful. The children's biological father, Cody Sullivan, who had been estranged for 3 years, also passed his test. Even the maternal grandmother and her partner were cleared. Brooks-Murray was also tested and, according to court documents, was found truthful. However, a polygraph is only as good as the questions asked and the physiological state of the person being tested. Interestingly, Janie McKenzie, the grandmother living in the camper, had an inconclusive result because her physiology wasn't suitable for analysis. While the polygraph results for Brooks-Murray might suggest innocence on the surface, the physical evidence collected by cadaver dogs and underwater recovery teams told a different story. These dogs searched 40 kilometers of terrain and water features without finding a single trace of the children, further cementing the theory that they were never in the search area to begin with. The investigation took a strange turn in July 2025 when a man named Darren Geddes entered the picture. A secret phone recording captured a conversation between Geddes and the children's paternal grandmother, where Geddes hinted that he had inside knowledge about the disappearance. He specifically implicated Brooks-Murray, suggesting he knew she was involved in what happened. When police hauled him in for questioning, Geddes became confrontational and evasive. He refused to explain how he knew these details, or if he was simply chasing clout in a high-profile case. Whether Geddes was a witness or a fabulous remains a point of contention, but a specific focus on the mother added another layer of suspicion to the case. Then there's a report from Natasha Haywood, who claimed she saw a woman in her 50s or 60s with a loose curl haircut waiting by a gold sedan on the morning of the disappearance. She described seeing 2 children matching Lilly and Jack's description walking toward this woman, as if they were getting into the car. If true, this would mean the children were abducted or handed off. But why did Haywood wait nearly a month to report this? And how could a strange vehicle enter such a remote, eagle-eyed community without being caught on a single camera or noticed by the immediate neighbors? When you look at the family dynamics, the pressure was mounting. Brooks-Murray and Martell were living in a cramped mobile home with 3 young children and a grandmother in a camper just feet away. Financial stress and the isolation of Lansdowne Station created a pressure cooker environment. Furthermore, because the biological father was estranged, Brooks-Murray had total, unchecked control over the children's lives. She decided who saw them and what happened in that house. As we return to the evidence, the inconsistencies in her story become impossible to ignore. She claimed she slept through multiple vehicle trips. She claimed she didn't notice the house hadn't been cleaned. She claimed she waited 20 minutes to call 911 because she was searching. But the most damning fact remains. Lilly and Jack haven't been seen by anyone outside that house since their trip to Dollarama on May 1st. In that footage, they were happy and healthy. 20 hours later, they were gone. The investigation continues to circle back to the same person, as the forensic results from the property continue to trickle in. Every piece of evidence, the deleted app, the staged blanket, the 20-minute delay, is a thread, and all those threads are being pulled by the same hand. As the investigation into the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan crossed the 8-month mark, the focus on Malehya Brooks-Murray shifted from a standard inquiry to a concentrated effort to deconstruct a narrative that simply does not hold up under scrutiny. When you examine the evidence objectively, you see a series of coincidences that are statistically impossible. We have to return to the core of Brooks-Murray's testimony. The claim that she was a passive, sleeping observer while her world was allegedly falling apart around her. As a mother of 3 young children, her claim that she slept through multiple vehicle departures and arrivals strains the very definition of maternal instinct. Parents are notoriously light sleepers, conditioned to wake at the sound of floorboard creaking or a child's cough. Yet, Brooks-Murray insists that while a car, allegedly belonging to her partner, was active throughout the early morning hours, she remained in a state of deep, uninterrupted sleep. This convenient sleep cycle effectively creates a legal shield, a way to claim total ignorance of any activity occurring in the driveway or on the property. But when contrasted with the witness reports from neighbors like Brad Wong and Justin Smith, her silence becomes a loud, screaming red flag. The story of the uncleaned house is another pillar of this deception that remains entirely unaddressed. If Daniel Martel told her he was staying up to clean the house as a favor to her, and she woke up to find the home in the same state of disarray, the natural human reaction is to ask why. It is a point of immediate conversation. Yet, there is no record of her demanding an explanation, nor is there a public record of Martel providing one that satisfied the RCMP. This suggests that the cleaning story was a placeholder, a flimsy excuse for why Martel was awake and active during the hours the children likely vanished. Then we must look at the physical evidence of the pink blanket once more. This is perhaps the most calculated piece of the puzzle. For a blanket to be torn and placed in two strategic locations, one in the kitchen trash and one a kilometer away at a railroad track, requires intentionality. It requires someone to consciously decide to destroy an item of comfort and use it as a prop. Brooks-Murray, as the primary caregiver, had the most intimate knowledge of that blanket. She knew it would be recognized. By identifying it to the police, she confirmed its origin, but she has never explained how a piece of it ended up in her own garbage. If the children had wandered off with the blanket, it wouldn't be in the trash. If an abductor had taken them, they wouldn't stop to throw half a blanket in the victim's kitchen bin. The only person who benefits from a blanket being found near the tracks is someone trying to prove the children walked in that direction. This is the hallmark of staging. It is an attempt to control the movements of the police by giving them a false scent to follow. When you combine this with the forensic discovery of the deleted Text Plus app, the picture of a woman in control of a narrative becomes clear. She wasn't just a victim of circumstance. She was actively managing the flow of information. She was choosing which digital footprints to erase and which physical items to place. Every action she took in the hours following the disappearance seems designed to protect herself rather than to find Lilly and Jack. We are now more than 8 months into the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan, and the silence from a property in Lansdowne Station is deafening. Despite the massive resources of the RCMP, the 8,000 videos reviewed, the 800 investigative tasks completed, and the 40 kilometers of terrain searched by cadaver dogs, there is still no trace of these two innocent children. The investigation has reached a critical juncture where the missing person narrative is all but dissolved, replaced by a complex person of interest case centered on the mother. The shift in the RCMP's tone in late 2025 was telling. Staff Sergeant Rob McSonon's statement that investigators were forming pictures of what took place suggests that the police have a working theory that they are not yet ready to bring to a grand jury. In many high-profile cases, the lack of an immediate arrest does not mean a lack of evidence. It often means that investigators are meticulously building a case that can withstand the scrutiny of a courtroom. They are waiting for that one piece of forensic data, that one recovered text message from a deleted app, or that one witness to finally break their silence. The behavior of Malehya Brooks-Murray continues to be the central enigma. On one hand, she participates in public appeals, playing the role of the grieving mother. On the other hand, she has exercised her legal rights to limit her cooperation with the very people trying to find her children. While every citizen has a right to legal counsel, the optics of a mother shielding herself while her children are potentially in a shallow grave or in the hands of a predator are troubling to the public and to investigators alike. If she is innocent, why hide behind the deletion of secret communication apps? If she is desperate for answers, why was there a 20-minute delay before calling 911? The community of Lansdowne Station and the Sipek-Nacattic First Nation deserve better than the mystery they have been left with. Lilly, with her love for princess dresses, and Jack, with his passion for dinosaurs, are more than just names in a police file. They are two children who were failed by the adults meant to protect them. The evidence of staging, the blanket, the vehicle movements, the digital scrubbing, points to a crime that was not a crime of passion, but one of cold calculation. As we conclude this examination, the weight of the evidence rests on Brooks-Murray's shoulders. Whether she was directly involved in their disappearance, or whether she is simply withholding the truth about what happened that night to protect herself or someone else, she holds the keys to this case. Until she or someone close to her decides that the lives of Lilly and Jack are more important than the secrets they are keeping, this case will remain a haunting reminder of what happens when the truth is buried beneath layers of deception. We must keep the pressure on. We must keep their faces in the public eye. Justice for Lilly and Jack Sullivan demands more than just investigation. It demands the truth. 8 months is too long for a mother to keep secrets while her children are gone. It is time for the silence to end. It is time for the truth about the night of May 1st to finally come to light. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned as we continue to follow every development in this heartbreaking case. Justice must be served.